Welcome to Annapolis Mosaics. Our program spotlights people in our city who are involved in activities designed to promote good human relations. I am Michael Keller, the host for your program. I also am chair of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission. The commission is a city board that seeks to ensure equal opportunity and to eliminate discrimination. My guest today is Enrique Melendez, the president of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. Welcome to Annapolis Mosaics, Mr. Melendez.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me on your program.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you. First, what persuaded you to run for the school board?
Well, several years ago, around 2004, late 2004, I was told about the opening of the school board District 30 position. And in the past of my life, I've given back to the community. And I've kind of been working around the world at that time as an engineer. I had not been giving back recently at that time. And I said, maybe it's time. My children were older. They were basically almost finishing high school. I had one in college. And I thought it'd be good to use my extra time in the evening to give volunteer work. So I decided to run for the school board. I also was motivated because I felt diversity was not necessarily represented, especially from a Hispanic perspective.
What is the role of the Board of Education in the school board here in Anne Arundel County?
Well, the board does several things, but its main purpose is to set policy for the Board of Education school system. We oversee the hiring of the superintendent of schools and any key staff member, but dominantly our main purpose is setting policy. When new issues arise, that there's no policy exists, we have to come together and decide what the policy is. And as you know, we were 8 members, now we're 9, with one of those 9 being a student member, who, by the way, I would like to share is the only full voting member of a school board as a student in any state in our country.
And how about your own role as president of the board? What do you do? What is your responsibilities as the head of the school board?
Okay, well, you know, publicly the main spokesman as the president, but in reality, it doesn't change much my role. We as a school board really work all together, all members, and we try to work together on all issues. But the dominant difference is that I would set policy as for the agenda for the board meetings and what are the key items for the year that want to be discussed during the calendar school year, and work closely with the superintendent on setting that agenda.
You represent Legislative District 30 on the Board of Education, and that includes the city of Annapolis. What are the issues that you're aware of that are of greatest interest to city residents as it pertains to education?
Well, I think the biggest issue is first of all, for many years before I came on the board, it was felt by many of the residents that Annapolis, the city, was, quote, being ignored by the Board of Education. I'm not sure how much truth is in that, but I can tell you since I've been on the board, representing this district, I've been listening and talking to the community representatives, leaders, parents, to really understand the issues, and visiting the local schools to understand the unique challenges. And actually, that's what's going on. We're an urban fringe system environment here for the Annapolis feeder system. It has unique challenges that all the school feeder systems do not have in our county. And first of all, you must realize our county is so diverse. We have the rural environment from South County up to urban fringe here in Annapolis to suburbia. So we're very diversified. The Annapolis feeder system, what makes it unique, I believe, is the diversity it has. I mean, you look at Germantown Elementary, I think it's a majority school, many African Americans, many Hispanics. You have the challenges of the city dropout rate at the high school level, the freshman GPA, grade point averages, 2.0 or less at 50% level with minorities. A lot of challenges that the school system has, the performance gap. in the middle school performance. How well our middle school not making the middle school assessment. The high school assessment for many years was not passed by Annapolis High School, but recently we have passed. So I think the challenges is really in the performance of students, especially addressing the needs of the minorities, and really our urban fringe environment that poses new challenges, especially for kids after school.
You made reference to the diversity of the county, and you're absolutely right. I mean, you've got a major incorporated city in Anne Arundel County in the presence of Annapolis. You've got large, sprawling suburban communities which are very prevalent in the county, and then you've got a fairly large rural area in the southern part of the county. Given those geographic differences that exist, what special problems or challenges does that diversity pose for the school system and for the school board?
I believe one is the understanding of the cultural diversity. I have a saying that if you go and teach, as a teacher, a student classroom, as I call it, the middle class approach, and some of our environment will not work. You cannot teach low-income students as if they were middle-class students, income students. They will not be as receptive and understanding to what's being taught. I think low-income students, regardless of color, low-income students face different challenges at the home, in their socioeconomic environment, that what's on their mind and how they think about things is totally different from more affluent families, middle class, upper middle class, where they don't have the same challenges. For example, many kids in our city, when they get home, they don't have these after-school sports league to go to. Yet you go to other parts of the county, it's common practice. All year round, soccer, football, baseball. A lot of our students in our cities don't have things to do after the school. So one of the challenges is how do we keep our kids busy, especially when they have parents that maybe work all day and they're not home, or a single parent environment. So there's a lot of unique challenges. They're worrying about putting food on the table the next day, who's taking care of the little baby sister when they get home. A lot of complete different challenges from more affluent residents of our community.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been trying to focus a lot of attention on increasing the numbers of students who ultimately go on and who succeed in post-secondary education. This is colleges and universities in the United States. The high schools serve, obviously, as feeders to our colleges and universities. 20 years ago, the United States was first in the world in the number and the percentage of its citizens 25 to 34 years of age who completed college, who actually had a degree. Today, we rank 10th. We've actually slipped way down in that. And if you look if you look behind the numbers, you see a lot of it has to do with demographics. Only 20% of low-income African Americans and Latinos in the United States have a bachelor's, a college degree, and yet we know from statistics from the Labor Department that 50% of all new jobs that are going to be created in the United States are going to require a post-secondary degree. What are you doing in Anne Arundel County to increase try to increase first of all, the preparedness of students for post-secondary education, which is a critical component, and also to encourage those students to go on for post-secondary education?
Well, Mike, you bring up a good point, but let me also throw some additional statistics.
Okay.
In reality, is 1 out of 2 minority students, especially males, graduate out of high school. So that's how bad the picture is. And I think we're losing them really in middle school. Kids do great from 1st grade to 5th grade elementary, and somehow for many different reasons, during 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, it's when they start to get sidetracked and pay less attention to if you will, their education. I think we need to understand as a school system why that happens, better track and better monitor the students, and that's one thing, that's what we're doing now in Anne Arundel County. We're trying to work with all the students from first grade all the way to their graduation, high school, tracking their performances, working on their weaknesses, working with the teachers, and after school programs if needed, extending, especially in the middle school years, extending the duration of the day, and adding additional mentoring or tutoring that's needed. And the Annapolis community, working with the city, has helped us in that area recently. So we have a lot of activities after school to keep the kids interested in school, because I believe in Annapolis that one of the challenges these students get home, and number one, they don't know what to do and they're bored and they get into trouble. Second, and a lot of them lack role models to make them strive to achieve and explain to them the importance of a college education. So if they don't have an understanding of what's out there, they're not gonna succeed, because they have no motivation or no interest. So we're trying to educate them on why college is important, why high school is important, number one, why it's important to do well, and get the interest really at the middle years, school level, and then by the time they get to the high school, they'll be better prepared to do well in high school and succeed in the college years.
You'd mentioned that 1 out of 2 African-American males.
And Hispanics too.
And Latinos. And in fact, we see that in post-secondary education as well. There was a task force which was actually put together to look at the status of African-American men who not only enroll in higher education in lower numbers, but who graduate in lower numbers. Are there any specific things that you're doing that are aimed strictly at Latino and African-American men?
Well, we have. I mean, first of all, we're trying to hire, number one, teachers of the minority group. You know, African-American teachers, male African-American teachers, same thing with Hispanics. And there's a scarcity of those resources, but we're increasing especially our new hires in the school system, it is increasing. We're also trying to educate all teachers how to deal with a diversified population, because that is unique, and if you can't communicate with these students and you don't understand where they're coming from, you're not going to be able to educate them. So we're trying to be sensitive to that. We're also really focusing on the students to really work on their educational weaknesses, understand those, and work with them, with the family and the teachers to improve on those weaknesses and turn them around, make them positive. And I think we're focusing on individual students and not just treating them as a group, a pool of students, but knowing every student, a little bit about every student and their background, their family life, and more understanding them as an individual, I think is starting to help us better turn them around and get them interested in school and education.
We've been talking today to Enrique Melendez, the president of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. We're going to take a brief break now, but when we return, I'm going to be asking Mr. Melendez about the Cultural Proficiency Program that's just been introduced in the Anne Arundel County schools. Well, we welcome back Enrique Melendez, the president of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. The superintendent of schools, Kenneth Maxwell, introduced a program for cultural proficiency into the public schools. And specifically, it's designed to help the staff of the school system, but also the teachers and the principals and their staff in the schools have a better understanding of the importance of racial and ethnic diversity. The Human Relations Commissions of the county and the city were responsible for promoting this idea. We're very pleased that the superintendent has actually created this program. Could you share with our viewers a little bit about what has gone on with respect to this?
Sure. First of all, from the Board of Education perspective, we supported such initiative, and also because, you know, several years ago, we signed the Office of Civil Rights Agreement with neighboring community stakeholders about how to improve the education of not only African Americans, really of all minorities that were not doing well performance-wise with education. And we established the Office of Equity with Lisa Finney, and she actually spearheaded within the school system the cultural diversity program in education. What it involves really is we brought in professional staff developers that were trained in training us how to, as teachers and staff, understanding different cultures and being open, changing the way we think and look at things. So if we're used to seeing the glass, as they say, half full, we need to look at it at half empty. It just creates a different perspective to better relate to our students. And our students, as you know, are very diversified. Not only we have the ethnic and the racial, but really we're multicultural. And some people don't like that term, but that's a reality. The United States is very diversified, and we have students from different parts of Asia, Europe, Latin America, and also within our internal domestic, you know, African American and their culture. It's understanding our students, and really the diversity is not only extends itself from an ethnic and racial, but really from a social, economic perspective.
Let's talk about another success of the public school system here in the county. For the first time since it was established 5 years ago, the Adequate Yearly Progress program, which basically tracks the performance of students in the county, has found that all 12 of the county high schools have actually met their target, and I mean, that's been a real accomplishment. To what would you attribute this development?
I could tell you, you know, one main factor is bringing Dr. Maxwell. He left no stone unturned, and he looked at all the issues that were possibly affecting the performance of our schools, especially Annapolis High School, the schools that were not meeting the AYP for many years. But what contributed to the success is multiple efforts by community stakeholders, by parents, by volunteers, the teachers, the staff. It took everyone, and it will continue to take everyone every year to continue past. But I'm mostly proud of Annapolis High School, which is in my district, because it's never passed AYP, and it's never done it. So finally, we've shown people, as you know, several years ago, about 2 years ago, we made everyone reapply for their jobs. We got criticized heavily on that, but we believed that was the right thing to do, because at that time, from my perspective as a board member, there was a school within a school. We were not teaching all the students at that school, and we were ignoring those that were failing, and enough was enough. It was time to overhaul the school, and we did, and now 2 years later, we've passed AYP, so we're very happy.
Okay. Let's take a look at some issues that are of direct concern to the residents of Annapolis. In terms of facilities, what is the Board of Education doing for Annapolis?
Well, we're doing a lot of great things, and just recently it came up for the vote, and it was all passed unanimously. The superintendent recommended a complete revitalization of Annapolis Elementary School. We're going to gut it out, fix it up. We're even going to take the Green Street building there that's used by administration, convert that into classrooms. And we're going to keep the historic nature of the building and preserve that. So we're proud of that. And the good thing is that there were a lot of talk in the community, why not combine different schools and close down that and get that property to the city. We felt the city needed a school there downtown. We wanted to make it a walking school. So we're going to keep Annapolis where it is and revitalize it. Second good news is we're going to take Germantown Elementary, and we actually built a whole new school building for them on the other side of the field. And that's much needed. It hasn't been a new school building since the 60s here in Annapolis, downtown. So we're going to make Germantown a new building. Third is we're going to take the current Germantown and we're going to move the students from the current Phoenix Center into Germantown. That would allow us to double the number of students in alternative education and special education, which is currently lacking. We don't have enough space for special ed and alternative ed. So we'll be able to double now the student population. And at the same time, we're going to take the old Germantown, revitalize it for the new Phoenix Center. So it's 3 major moves for our city.
Okay. Well, it sounds like the school board is doing quite a bit for the city of Annapolis. In what ways can the city, or in what ways does the city support the public school system here in Anne Arundel County?
Well, you know, as anything, especially with school construction, it takes money. So the first thing is just to support at the county council meetings our recommendation to improve the facilities for the Annapolis school system. For the buildings like Germantown and Annapolis Elementary. Your voices have to be heard. Citizens got to come out. Cities got to come out and push for these new school construction projects. We need support. In addition, I think currently you're doing a lot after school programs where you're supporting reading, tutoring, and if you continue with that, that'll be great. And just get the word out to these kids that education is important. And I think the more we can collaborate, I know we work a lot with Tony Spencer and his department with community relations and outreach. So continue what you're doing, be out there and promoting education. That's all we can ask for.
When you talk about the issue of funding, that directly brings up the support that you would receive from the county. And just in the past few months, there has been some tension, as evidenced by news articles and the like, between the superintendent, Mr. Maxwell, and County Executive John Leopold in terms of the levels of funding for the school system. What perspective do you have as president of the board about this issue?
Well, naturally, in the past we've had challenges, difference of opinion. Our job in the Board of Education is to promote and recommend the budget that's best for our school system. And that's it. We don't set the budget, we recommend the budget. And we're always going to speak up for what's best for our students and our teachers. That's not necessarily in concert in the charter of the county executive. He has other interests, and it's understandable. So our job is to educate him and promote why our recommendations make sense and why he should support our budget. Will there be a difference of opinion? Yes. At times not agree? Yes. But we're always going to speak up for the students and the parents and the teachers to ask for the money where we believe we need it. Now, as for this coming year, I don't have a crystal ball, but everyone knows we're in financial constraints everywhere as a country, as a state, as a county, I imagine as a city. It's going to be a tough year. We'll get presented a budget by Dr. Maxwell in December. The board has till about January to look at it before we make our final recommendation. But of course, we'll have public hearing and listen to the concerns of the community and do what's best. So we will continue to really represent the interests of the educational community and recommend that forward to the county.
Many of our viewers are probably saying, this is really interesting. I might like to actually sit in on a meeting of the Board of Education and hear and see its proceedings. Could you share with our viewers a little bit about how they can do that, how they can become more involved in the work of the board by being able to attend meetings, which I presume are open to the public?
Yes, they are, Mike. Actually, that's a very good question. And yes, every first Wednesday of the month at 10 o'clock is the board meeting, and that's a day meeting. Then every third Wednesday of the month is an evening meeting, normally starts at 7 o'clock. And actually there's time for public participation, public testimony on any item any citizen wants to bring up or any community group would like to bring up. And we welcome that because I think, especially for District 30, we don't get enough parents and community stakeholders to speak on issues as it relates to Annapolis. I would like to see more of that. We always say on the board we get always good turnout from the Severno Park community and some other communities in town, but Annapolis needs to get more involved, and we welcome that as a board.
Mm-hmm. We have been talking today with Enrique Melendez, the president of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. Thank you for viewing our show today, and please join us again on Annapolis Mosaics. If you would like more information about the Annapolis Human Relations Commission, simply jot down the information which is on your screen. You can contact us at 410-263-7998 or by email at hrcommission@annapolis.gov. And remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We have flown the skies like birds and swum the sea like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth as brothers and sisters."